Welcome to part 3 of our series on making the nose bowl molds for Earl's Buttercup. Hope you enjoy.
So welcome back to the shop. We have our second layer of gel coat on the part that we're doing now, which is the female mold. I've just mixed up a batch of resin. We are ready to put on the fiberglass reinforcement to back up this 2 coats of gel coat that are on here. So what will happen next is I have this resin mixed, again 1.5 to 2%, give or take. And I'm gonna start to lay up the fiberglass reinforcement. I'll put a layer of 4 ounce on there to get something that sticks nice and tight. I'll follow it up with a layer of 6 ounce. And then I'll do a layer of 10 ounce per yard. Then I'll do some matte to really build up the thickness a little bit. And then we'll do a cap layer of 10 ounce just so we don't have any sharp pointers, things like that from the matte. And we're doing a laminating style here, so we'll put a layer on and let it kind of flash a little bit to get nice and gooey, and then we'll go on with the next layer. So stay tuned. I'm going to start laying this on. So I'm going to take the fabric, and I didn't cut it precisely. It's not that critical. I'm going to start in the center. I'm going to lay it over the top. I'll get it laid out as nice as I can to the part. Try and get it to cover all the way to the edge. And then I'll start wetting it down to get it to stick nice. Not extremely concerned about how it lays down or where it lays down, as much as I am that it has to be tight, no air bubbles, things like that. So again, you don't want to be picking it up and placing it multiple times in case there's still a tacky spot in the gel coat, which this has been drying for about 2.5 hours now. So not really any likelihood that that's going to be a problem. One thing to note, when you're putting the layers of gel coat on, give plenty of time for the gel coat to dry and adhere. If you try to put the gel coat on too soon after the first layer of gel coat is on, it has a tendency sometimes to outgas. When you block it from being able to gas out fully, it may wrinkle, crack, lift, bubble, all those bad things. Speaking from experience. So be aware of that when you do that. Give your gel coat, at least your first layer, give your gel coat a lot of time to lay down, fully cure, gas out all the stuff that it's going to do, so that you can make sure that it's not going to lift up when you put the next layer of chemical on there, which will be your second layer of gel coat. So as you can see, I'm just trying to lay this out fairly even. I'll start out like that. Before I put any resin on it and get my scissors all messed up, I'll do a cursory cut back here, just trim along the edges. That'll save me some time later.
Now, one thing to mention here is that the gel coat is still a little bit tacky. It was put on early in the morning. It sat for about 5 hours. Because the gel coat did not have any wax in it, it was gel coat without wax, it was still a little tacky. So I was able to place the fabric on it, but not really slide it around. But it was nice because it would stick well enough that I could trim the edges without it moving. And that's just a little bit of trick of the trade there. So just something to note.
Again, I'm solo today, so I apologize for not being able to pick up the camera and zoom in while all this is going on. It's a little bit difficult to do all that and do the work. So, as my buddy says, do the work, jerk. Okay, we're pretty good there. Like I said, I'll do a cursory cut back along the edges of trimming. Can use those pieces in a bit. Gotta hurry here, my resin is probably gonna start to move on me here before I'm ready for it to move. Don't want that. Okay. I'm just going to be wetting it through. And again, this is my first layer of fiberglass reinforcement. Just going to be wetting it through, making sure that it's adhered to the gel coat. Get all the bubbles out. I don't really care if there's a few brush fuzzy things or pieces of the brush in here. Don't care. It won't affect it in the end. It'll just be embedded inside of a bunch of layers, so not a big deal. Work all that in as quick as possible. This 4-ounce wets pretty easily. It doesn't take much time or effort to wet it down. Again, just using the brush to work it all the way to the ends. Work those air bubbles from the center outward to the edges. Get a nice layer of resin in there. At this point, with the gel coat fairly rigid, I don't have to be worried about screwing up the gel coat. As I said, the first layer, it dried overnight. This second layer of gel coat's been on there since about 8:30 this morning. It's now after 1 o'clock, so 4 or 5 hours actually that it's been drying. It's mostly 100% dry, rigid. Again, the fiberglass is wetting out and laying down beautifully. Now, if it's stuck nice, there's nothing that says that you can't just go wet on wet and just keep going with your layup. There's no right or wrong there. As long as you're not picking up the previous layer and adding air bubbles or making a mess of it, I don't think it's a problem. Like I said, everybody does things their own way. I encourage you to do things your own way, whatever works for you. The goal here is to make a nice, usable mold that we can use to get this first part out. And if we venture out into making more nose bowls for other Buttercups for folks, then we'll have the mold that does that. It'll be a nice piece. Now I'm going to work this into the corner a little bit, and I'll make a cut here. Get that laid down.
So basically, rather than make the video excessively long, I did a repeat of the 4-ounce by adding a layer of 6-ounce per yard and a layer of 10-ounce per yard. And once that was complete, then I went in to lay it on some extra thickness with some mat. So stay tuned.
Welcome back. One thing to mention here is these projects take time, so I know these videos look like it's 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there. We're on about the 4th hour power here if you want to do it right. Taking the time to make the mold, this is the most important part, next to making the part itself. So I've got a layer of 2 layers of gel coat, layer of 4 ounce per yard, layer of 6 ounce per yard. I put a layer of 10 ounce per yard, which is on here right now. And then I've started putting some mat. So mat is, it's a randomly woven fiberglass fiber. This will dissolve with polyester resin. It will not dissolve with epoxy. You don't want to use mat without using resin, polyester resin or vinyl ester resin. It will not dissolve the fiber in there to let it move around and flow around. I'm going to put a couple of layers of mat on here, and then I'm going to cover it with one more layer of 10 ounce. And when I do the 10 ounce, I'm going to mix up the resin with some styrene wax in it. And what the styrene wax will do is the wax will float to the top as it starts to dry, and the wax will give it a barrier, an air barrier, that'll allow the resin to fully dry, and it won't be sticky or tacky afterwards. But we're not there yet. We're in the process now of just putting on the mat, and so I'm just taking big chunks of mat and fitting them on. Like I said, I've got 4 ounce, 6 ounce, and 10 ounce. I got 3 layers on here already of cloth. It's going to give me a pretty good structure underneath. The mat's just giving me more thickness, more stiffness in the mold. Put as much of that on as you desire to get the mold as strong and thick as you want, I guess. It's not required that you use mat. You can just keep putting layers of cloth on. But the cloth is kind of expensive and the mat's really cheap. So I get as much of it done as I can with the cloth until I'm pretty sure that I've got something that's pretty resilient. And now I'm just putting more thickness to it with the mat. So you can see my technique here. I got the mat stuck on here, and it basically just fill it in with the resin, pat it down, try and get the air
Again,
bubbles
here I'm
out of it
not
if
spending a lot
possible,
of time to make it
and move
perfect.
forward.
I'm really
So
just trying to build up the layers. It's a little bit messy. Push the resin into the mat, push it down, get the air bubbles out. Make sure that it's covering the whole area. You get the thickness built up in the areas that you need it. Don't worry about how the edges look. You can cut them and grind them later.
So what you can see here is I got a bunch of small strips, cut maybe half, 3/4 of an inch wide. I've got some small pieces, maybe 1.5 inch square each. I can cut as many of those as I need to off these bigger pieces. I've got some small squares cut, so that's what we're going to use right now. Take these small squares and start fitting in around the front here. Okay, the last bit of resin here I'm going to mix. It's got has styrene wax in it. What the styrene wax will do is it'll allow the air barrier to be formed. The wax will go to the top, and that'll allow that air barrier to be created. just going to brush on a layer here of this. And we'll get the last coat of cloth to go over the top of this to seal this all up. Again, we're not being any particular at all, we're just sealing up what's underneath. Just gonna wet it down, make sure it's stuck, and call it a day. So I'll attach some still images of the mold after the resin cures, dries up, and put your comments in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you very much. We're trying to accomplish lots of things here. We hope that you enjoy everything you see. And if you don't, let us know. If you have any requests of what you might want to see a video of, that Earl's back in town, and we got some time out at the airport. We got some things we might be able to do a video of. We'll try and oblige. So put those requests in the comments, and we'll see what we can do. And until then, thank you, and hopefully this turns out real nice. Hopefully, and see you on the next one.
Coming up in part
Thanks
4.
for watching.
We'll find out how we did.
Okay, so the front edge is super sharp. Here we go.